Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having yourselves a great start to your day, great start to your week, and thawing out there. It's pretty cold across a large portion of the country with just a cold air mass still in place for a lot of folks. Certain areas waking up to the low 20s, pretty far south, even some teens out there in some higher elevations. So the good news is, well, the bad news is we have to deal with this for about a couple more days, but the good news is things rapidly change here in the next few days. And by the time we get into Wednesday, a lot of people will feel a huge difference, and definitely Thursday and Friday, and we talked about that in last night's video if you're interested and haven't watched in a few days. But big warm up coming up, and I know it's very cold out there now. I know that I love a good crisp fall morning, but when you get cold in like late March and April, I'm not for it at all. I don't know about you guys, but anyways, we're going to talk about the weather for today. We're going to enjoy the next couple days, which are going to be kind of quiet, and then things are going to really pick up as far as some nasty weather potential as we get into the last couple days of the work week. So we'll try to figure that out as we get a little bit closer. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way, especially when things kind of start to slow down. If you ever consider joining the channel, it's a great way to support what I do, especially in these slower times. It's always a great tester to see really how much the channel has grown once we get to summer. And you get to the point where you only get like 1,000 to 1,500 views of video in the summertime, and things just really bog down. So I really appreciate, as always, I know I say it over and over again, almost probably to the point of annoyance, but I really appreciate people who continue to view and make this part of the routine. I appreciate every single one of you. I really do. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's get rolling this morning. Watches, warnings, advisories. Winter storm watch is up for areas of northern Minnesota, several counties in eastern North Dakota. I got a feeling that this will likely get upgraded to an advisory, not warning, but some areas could get a winter storm warning. I just was looking at some data this morning, some model information. It looks like it's going to be a real big time quick hitter. But you do have a couple counties here in northeast Minnesota bordering Lake Superior with some lake enhancement. It seems like that has been a story up here with just rounds of heavy snow that continually hit these areas of the country. You got this very loud area right here where freeze warnings are dominating the south. Very cold out there. And speaking on how cold it really is, you look at temperatures right about right now. It just dropped below freezing in my house in central South Carolina, so another freeze. I think we're going to end up having more freezes in March than February potentially. But it's very cold in Tennessee. 20s, some teens. In the Cumberland Plateau, you're deep in the teens, mid-teens. Pretty wild. Certain areas in Tennessee did not get above freezing yesterday. I know I'm mentioning Tennessee a lot, but I feel like that's the middle ground of the most further states, but still getting heavily impacted by this pretty impressive late season cold air mass. It's not comparable to December of last year, but it's very cold, very cold. Very cold across the Ohio Valley, the Northeast. You guys can handle this time of the year, but pretty chilly for mid to late March standards. And definitely, it's actually colder in areas of Alabama than it is in like Iowa this morning. So pretty wild to see here. But you got the mid 30s as far south as the Panhandle of Florida, the Gulf Coast lines. So pretty cold temperatures out there. You look at the central U.S. also, not to leave you guys hanging. And pretty chilly, but definitely the cold, true core of the cold air mass has shifted east. 40s in Texas, 30s, and you got another reinforcement of cold air that's kind of dipped down to the Dakotas and Minnesota, where you're in the single digits this morning. So it's just still feels like all out winter up here in this portion of the country. So water vapor loop. Take a look at what's going on right here, and we'll reintroduce our little clicker over here, see if she'll work. And as you can tell, there's troughing right now over the eastern U.S. And that is why it's so cold for all these areas. And, it dips down lower than this. Obviously, it's cold down here along the Gulf Coast too. But you get the point. Troughing, meaning a cold front pushed through. And then you got a brief period of ridging out here. Then eventually, if we get rid of this kind of area of ridging, if you will eventually kind of shift this way. So eventually you will get troughing back in the west, which has been here all winter, right? I mean, it's been very cold out west, and then you'll have a kind of a storm track that goes like this. You'll get a ridge that kind of builds over the east, and then it'll be warm for everybody in here. Let's see if we can spell this out. Very warm for everybody in this area right here as we get into the last couple days of the week. And then it'll cool back down for the west, and then the storm track will kind of go like this in general. Okay, it'll jolt south a little bit more as we get more in time, as this boundary right here sags a little bit southeast. But in general, it gets back to that storm track that we've seen just about all winter. And that's why the east, and especially the southeast, has had a non-existent winter, is because of the dominant ridge feature in the weather pattern. So that's kind of what's going on. The southeast, there's not going to be a lot to talk about on each region, but we'll break it down. You got a lot of activity going on off the coast of the southeast, and actually some of this moisture might try to make its way northwest enough to bring some showers, maybe all the way to Myrtle Beach. Certainly a higher chance in Wilmington and Carolina Beach, Cure Beach areas. Me and my family used to always love vacationing in that area just south of Wilmington. Beautiful, beautiful coastline up in North Carolina. But Outer Banks could certainly see some showery weather. But this will eventually pull out this evening, and really, you could get some showers in the southern tip of Florida, but not a very active day today at all. It's a cool day. Some clouds probably hanging a little bit more tight to the coastline, but then some showers begin to enter the picture. But this is more so in the south central U.S. Won't talk about that yet. My folks up here in the northeast, quiet weather. Not a whole lot going on. Some snow showers will try to enter later this evening in northern Maine. But not a whole lot going on here in eastern sections of Canada. Maybe some snow showers possible, but just not. It's going to be a pretty quiet day. Enjoy it because it's going to get kind of active again. But as you're waking up tomorrow morning, some snow showers try to drift into the interior sections of the northeast. Talking about northern New York State, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and sections of western Maine. So, south central U.S. quiet day also. You got some disturbance out here in the west. You got some moisture, higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. Some of these showers might drift into areas of western Texas, Oklahoma, but certainly not a big deal. As we get into the overnight hours, more moisture begins to be on the increase as we get into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning as a weak low pressure develops. So you'll probably wake up to some damp, rainy conditions from Oklahoma City to Tulsa, maybe all the way up to Kansas City tomorrow morning. As moisture steadily by each day gets on the increase, therefore you're going to have higher chances of actual rain, but the dew points will begin to steadily rise. And up in this area where a moist sector will build very quickly throughout the next few days. The north central U.S., pretty quiet day too. It's just a quiet day ahead of what I think is going to be a pretty active week. I'm not foreseeing any kind of, it's hard to call it, but I don't know if we're going to have an outbreak of severe storms, but we certainly need to watch. There's 2 days we need to watch, and for a reason. But as we're getting into just after midnight tonight, some snow showers could develop here in northern Michigan and then kind of just rejuvenate themselves a little bit here in northern Michigan as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Could wake up to some flakes flying around, and then some snow begins to enter the picture here in areas of kind of like southwest North Dakota and northern and northwest South Dakota. As moisture gets on the increase, you got moisture building down here in Missouri, and this is getting into tomorrow. Temperatures today, kind of a reinforcement shot of cold air enters the northern plains. So bitterly cold temperatures from North Dakota, but South Dakota will be kind of a weird state where southwest South Dakota will be in the 40s, maybe 30s, but then northeast sections of South Dakota only in the 20s, maybe just teens. Cold day in Minnesota. But once you get a little bit south, there's a little bit of a boundary here. 60s all the way up into southeast areas in Nebraska. Kansas will feel pretty nice into the 60s, but pretty chilly temperatures. Nothing compared to the last couple of days, but chilly temperatures in the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, 40s, 30s. Southeast, maybe some 40s and 50s. Still even chilly down here, and down here in Florida, 60s and 70s. Some cloud cooled air here in Texas is likely. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center for day 3, there is a marginal risk. That is for our Wednesday here in the next 48 hours. We have to watch with some severe weather, and we'll see if this increases as our first little low pressure kind of pulses off this deep upper trough that's going to set up over the middle of the country. And I talked about that storm track. You're going to have pieces of energy that flies through. Anybody south of that runs the risk of some active weather. So a marginal risk for severe storms. This includes Kansas City, and northern Missouri and southern sections, very small area of southern Iowa, and then northeast Kansas. So we'll see what happens with this. This will be kind of a cold core setup, probably not a ton of thermodynamics, not a ton of kinematics, but there will be dynamics in general somewhat overlapping for some severe weather. We go to day 4. This is for Thursday. Remember, these days are closing in. So this is the same thing we talked about last night, but it's a little bit closer in time. There's a 15% risk of severe storms stretching from areas of southern southwest Texas all the way up to central Oklahoma. And really the risk here is you're probably going to have some kind of line of storms develop, but do you have any kind of supercell development in this yellow area? And that's what we watch for, and that's what we just don't quite know yet. We really don't. This is still 3 days out, but it's going to run the risk of it for sure. We go to day 5, shear really increases, and you're going to have a severe weather threat stretching from southeast Texas all the way to Nashville, Tennessee. This is kind of cut off a little bit, not as much into Birmingham or, as much as into Tennessee, but still it tells us that, confidence is beginning to increase somewhat of who's going to see severe weather. So it's tightening a little bit, not really broadening. If it was kind of getting wider, it would tell me that there's still a lot of confusion, and there still is. But, we'll watch this. They'll probably, I would favor a damaging line of storms. Damaging winds being the big threat is what I'm trying to say. But, you could still have a warm sector that builds. But the air mass really begins to pick up speed. Normally when that happens, you have a collapsing moist sector. And typically you have a damaging wind threat. But, it could be all threats are possible. And just to kind of look at everything in a more wide view, active times ahead, some of these little impulses of energy are weak. So that's good. But here comes the first one Tuesday. This kind of will eject across the middle of the country, and here it is right here. This will promote some severe weather, maybe as early as Wednesday morning for areas of Missouri. We'll see if some things can kind of refire and get going here, kind of in between these low pressures. There'll be snow potential for northern Nebraska, maybe even Iowa, so you could have some severe storms in northern Missouri, but at the same time, a little bit of snow. It's possible Wednesday evening for northern Iowa. So, it's a little bit of dynamics at play. This kind of takes more of a zonal ejection, meaning it's not really moving like southwest to northeast. It's kind of moving more so west to east. So this low pressure just flies. This is kind of in a zonal flow right over the Great Lakes region and might turn into a big snowy event for areas of Canada. Then it kind of quiets down. Then here comes our next low pressure that will try to eject right into here, deep down here. But there's still some questions. It's having a hard time even picking up on the low pressure, and that's probably just because it's weaker. But here it comes, popping off here on the Euro. I think there'll be a corridor of not just severe weather, but some heavy rain potential from Arkansas again, all the way through the Ohio Valley. The Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, I do think potentially could see a pretty good bit of rain potential, but it could be further north, could be further south. Had some people ask me about the Ohio Valley as far as severe weather. It's possible, but there's still some questions on these ejecting low pressures, where they're going to set up, who's going to see the worst weather. We're getting into Friday. Now this looks like a better look, a less confusing look for Friday. Thursday, the timing, I think, is going to be tough to figure out. But for Friday, here you go. You got a low pressure. It's strengthening. It looks like you're probably going to have some high-end kinematics. And this looks like, we're about Friday, late afternoon. This looks like a big line of storms that is kind of moving across Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, And do we have any kind of supercells that develop out in front of it? Not sure, but this could be a powerful system right here. It's a deepening low pressure, meaning this number is dropping. It's strengthening. We're getting into overnight Friday. This could bring some snow for Michigan. Could bring some interior snow for the Northeast. And this thing is still strengthening. And finally, it kind of plateaus. But, with a strengthening low pressure, you always got to worry about a lot of strong winds. And you would need to watch out Friday into Friday night and Saturday morning for some severe weather. This kind of could be like a cold core setup where you could have a little bit of severe weather all the way up into Ohio sometime Friday into Saturday. Okay, but this might work in your favor due to timing. It might move through in an unfavorable time for severe weather. But we got to figure it out. We got to watch all these little cells right here. I wouldn't call them cells, just, weather. Okay, so that's all I got. We'll figure this out. We'll fine tune it as we get closer. You guys have a great Monday. Make the best of it. I know Monday kicks a lot of people's rear ends. I know I'm not feeling as energized as I normally do, but this is kind of my rest day where I don't work out, so I just kind of slept in, so feeling a little groggy. But I hope you guys have a great day. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you this evening.